Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Jordan J. and Buddies podcast. I am your host, Will, joined once again by the good buddy Brandon.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Yo, so we are back talking again, and this time we're deviating from the usual, talking about the MCU. We are talking about one of the, if not the best, currently running animated series, Rick and Morty. And a fair warning before we jump into anything, we will be talking about the entire series, including Season 5 that just ended, so there will be spoilers, and we're not going to warn you again. So this is it. This is the warning.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be theories, there's going to be analyzation of the episodes, there's going to be opinions, but there's definitely spoilers. So final time, if you haven't seen the series fully, go watch it, come back.
Yes. We are talking about this about 2 weeks after Season 5 ended, with what is the biggest ending of the whole series.
Mind-blowing.
It's one of the biggest cliffhangers, one of the biggest just whatever. And as such, it just made us think, you know what, we should talk about this thing. Because I got into this back in the middle of Season 2, like 6 or 7 years ago, and I actually got Brandon into it.
Yeah, I actually remember Will talking to me in the hallways of high school about this animated show, Rick and Morty, he'd watch sometimes. And eventually I was at another friend's house, it was on the TV, and I just wound up binging it from that point forwards, you know?
And it is so cleverly written, so well written, because there's so much of it. It's so easy to mess up a show like this, to get caught up in a bad fan base, to get caught up in whatever, and make your show saturated, overdo it, or whatever, but they don't. They have like 10 episode seasons where, I mean, honestly speaking, I can't look at their entire library and say that they have a bad episode.
Yeah, honestly, I can rate the episodes from, like, good to, like, the best, exceptional, you know, but I wouldn't necessarily say there's bad episodes. There's weird episodes. It gets out there sometimes, but I mean, this is a series based on the multiverse. Obviously, there's going to be some weird factors in that.
Yeah, there's some crazy episodes, and some that I would definitely put towards the bottom of a list if I'm talking about ranking them, but the reality is, you have bad episodes of TV shows. Shows that went on too long where people are like, yeah, the whole of The Office Season 9 is bad. That's fair enough when people say that. There, you have no individual episodes, even in Rick and Morty, that are like that, and I think that really says something, because it speaks a lot to the creative team behind the show.
Yeah, especially because you could even compare it to, like, Family Guy or Simpsons, which are other iconics and classics, you know, but obviously you could tell over time that they just start having episodes that are forgettable, not memorable. And I mean, for the most part, when you go through Rick and Morty stuff, everybody has their own favorite episode. Everybody has their own opinion and their own outlook on it. I don't agree with the whole fan base, obviously. We both know there's some toxic fan base in there. But I mean, Rick and Morty's also really good at addressing that when they need to, you know? Like Nazi Morty in Season 4's premiere.
Yes. Yeah, Fascist Morty in the Season 4 premiere was great, because he literally was supposed to be like the embodiment of all of the bad fans who were saying, I don't like where the show is going. Just return back to the simple Rick and Morty adventures of the earlier days. And Rick was like, what does it even mean? You can't just tell me what you don't want. Tell me what you do want. Yeah, and it was exactly like that. It's them like looking into the camera and being like, you guys don't even know what you want. Just let us make your show. You will like what we give you. Just let us do it.
And I like that they do that multiple times. Like, they started getting more and more direct with it, you know? Like, especially in the Season 5 finale, how, like, whoa, like, dead wife. And Rick's like, yes, so everybody can shut up about it.
But the reality is, you were talking about, people who... everybody had theories about what made up Rick's past. And finally, the Season 5 finale is dedicated to answering just about every question.
Yes.
Not all of them. There's enough loose threads to keep the show going. But we do know we had a lot of burning questions, and we have a lot of them answered.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people were theorizing. I remember what I was saying. Sorry, guys, I have smooth brain syndrome sometimes. But a lot of us were theorizing a lot of different ways, and Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon have always been avid on, like, we're not going to look at fan theories. We're not going to listen. Like, we listen to the fans. We're glad you guys are there and everything, but, I mean, at the end of the day, this is our show. Like, that's always been what they said. And through time, especially like Season 4, Season 5, after they got renewed for their 70-episode block, a lot of people started spamming them every which way they could, through email, through letters, through tweets, through everything, to where they couldn't really avoid the fan theories anymore. So they're like, hey, this is our show, but like, how can we get these people to kind of, we want to please you guys, but at the same time, low-key, can you shut up and let us have our show?
Just back off and just let time happen.
Yeah, exactly. So, and speaking of time, that's another big thing, is Rick and Morty was centered, like, we're not going to do time travel at all, and they've had one or two time episodes.
They've had one or two episodes that have been self-contained time travel stories, which is fantastic because it's also the season 4 Christmas episode that focuses on snake time travel is one of the greatest episodes in the whole series, I would argue, and definitely because I'm personally a bit of a time travel aficionado in the world of cinema and TV shows.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it is one of the most well-made, things where you can find plot holes in everything. As you guys know, my favorite movie is Back to the Future. But
tons of plot holes.
It's full of plot holes, full of time travel inconsistencies, full of whatever. And if you want to pick it apart, you don't even have to try that hard. But that Rick and Morty time travel episode is solid.
Yeah.
I have not found a problem with it, and I've looked, and I can't find a problem with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool. I think that really says something too, where it's basically kind of them saying we could do time travel and we could do a good job at it, but the overall arc is not time based. This is there's no time travel jumping. There's multiverse jumping. There's so much of it you won't even be able to keep track of multiverse jumping.
Yeah.
But there's no time jumping.
And there's even multiverse jumping where like we'll jump to a multiverse that might have time running slower, like the car battery in the multiverse episode where they go see Zeep Zamforth, Stephen Colbert. Great appearance. But
and even in the pilot episode, there's a time reference where Morty breaks his leg, so Rick goes to his portal gun to go get him the leg serum.
True.
And he was gone for like 10 seconds, but then he comes back. He was like, that time ran slower there, and I was with a lot of beautiful women, Morty, and I was there for forever. But while I was gone, my portal gun has got no charge left, And so it was like, so they screw around with time stuff, but it's not integral to the point of Rick can't time travel. He can just manipulate multiverse stuff in a way where time acts differently, but it's not like he can time travel.
As we know as of right now, because season 5's
from
finale
what they've said,
pretty much blew our minds. Yeah, from what they said at the beginning. But another episode with the time is the Mr. Nimbus episode, season 5 premiere. With Jim Gaffigan's dog trying to please his mother.
Oh, I love first off that there's that Jim Gaffigan's in there because he's like one of my favorite stand-up comics.
Future.
And that season 5 intro is so good because you have to stick the intro of a season. You can have some mediocre ones throughout, as this season did, but that season 5 opener is so fantastic that there's this pocket dimension that Morty travels to that exists from Rick's perspective to just age the wine. But there's a society on the other side, and Morty messes with them, and he ruins their life, and he ruins generations and eras for these people.
They travel to the end of time where he sees an owl in another dimension, and she's like, "You failed me, my son," and he's like, "Mother," and then he like zooms back, like after they pull him out. Like,
it's
so well done. It's dark, and Rick and Morty's really good at being dark. Another like dark episode. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Please keep going.
But another dark episode is the Whirly Durly conspiracy, because it's our first Rick and Jerry episode, self-proclaimed Rick and Jerry episode. But It's an amazing episode, but there's definitely, once the force field goes down, because they go to the planet where obviously people can't die because it's Jerry. If there's anybody who can find a way to die over the stupidest ways possible, it's Jerry. So you go to this planet, you have the force field, and of course they mess it up, and then you have a little boy playing with his sister, and they show it off at the beginning. You don't even think of anything. It's just an example, like, oh, he shoots his sister in the head, she gets back up, they go laughing. You're like, oh, even the kids are involved. Later on, the force field goes down. You don't even think of that, and it cuts back to the kids. Little kid shoots his sister, and then Zatha, like, she's
dead.
Gone. She's dead. Like, oh, they're
it's
showing
horrible.
us kid murder. It's alien kid murder, but I guess that's where we're going now, Rick and Morty. Okay. They showed us kids murdering, like the Smiggles episode, Strawberry Smiggles, which that opens up something good. Interdimensional cable as a concept, which is the idea that they've got this TV box that connects to any possible conceivable channel in any of one of the multiverses. So you see these insane things like, a world where humans evolve from corn, and there's just like corns on the cob having a gun battle on their TV, to just whatever. And the great thing is that it's largely improvised by the voice actors in the studio, and it's hilarious. I guarantee they're just like, do something Garfield related, and then they just throw stuff around for a minute. And the Gazorp Field parody is like my favorite interdimensional cable thing. That's your favorite one?
Probably.
Out of all of them?
It's either that or Two Brothers. It's one of those two. It's got to be one of those two.
Out of all of them?
It's got to be. Yeah.
Personal Space is really dark. Give me my personal space.
Get out of my personal
space. And then he just like peels off his skin. That one went real dark. Or you want to know which one's honestly one of my favorite? Obviously the Little Bits. But the other one too is the How Did I Get Here? And then the chick's like by the coffee machine a second, and then she's like on top of the phone or whatever, and she's like, how did I get here? And the guy's just like, how did she get there?
And then Morty's like,
what
Rick,
does that mean? And
Rick,
Rick's like,
how did she
stay away from that coffee machine.
Rick, how did she get there? And Morty, I don't know, but
how did she get there?
Because the tagline was the show that'll make you say, how did they get there? And it's so this show is great at blending insanely absurd things that you've never even thought about. I've like these things. That's what Rick and Morty does so well. Is it's like sci-fi concepts that have not been done before. Yeah. If they do, then they're doing a parody of them. They've done a few parodies. They've done a Star Wars parody, kind of. Like more of a nod to Star Wars tropes. And stuff like that, I guess is the better way to phrase it.
Well, they did
like a Voltron.
We gotta do a freaking Star Wars.
And they did a Voltron parody in the most recent season and stuff, but more often than not, they're walking on untreaded territory with sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
One of my favorite episodes, as me and you were just talking about, is the memory parasite one. And I think that's what most people will say is like one of the best well-conceived episodes of the series.
If you want to watch Rick and Morty or get into Rick and Morty, that would be an episode I recommend because it's a self-contained episode. It's in season 2, but it's self-contained. It gives you the concept of the show and everything. And I can personally say it because that's the first episode I saw on the TV when I went into my friend's house. So definitely that would be the episode I'd say is a good jumping off point.
It is a great
start from the start.
Because it gives you a little intro to all 5 of the main characters, the core family. You know, and it hits the sci-fi stuff without going too over the top if you don't know the lore yet, because there's some other good episodes that are very lore-based.
Love them.
And this is just one-off, disconnected from everything. In its own right, it's completely disconnected, and it's really good. I would say that's a great place to start. If you're trying to get somebody to watch it or whatever, it's just a good episode.
Yeah, to just be like, okay, we're going to sit down and watch one, instead of being like, oh, we're going to watch season 1, because we can all kind of admit the pilot is vastly different than the rest of the show. Like, it has the concepts the same, but it's... I mean, if you've seen Doc and Marty, Justin Roiland's short from the beginning, like, it's not much better than that. It was just super vulgar at the time, and Adult Swim was like, hey, we get your idea, and we understand what you want, but you need to give us a refined version a little bit. And so, like, I'll actively say, honestly, out of all episodes, I think the pilot might rank towards my bottom.
The pilot is probably the weakest, and it's just because they start running laps around it even in the second episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because the second episode is the Inception parody, if you want to call it that, / the dogs taking over society parody thing, and that was so good and so much better than the pilot, because but pilots are always going to be weird because they have to introduce you to the concept, and they're always made separately. The pilots are often made weeks or months prior to the rest of the series even being produced.
They're get green lit, right?
This is what they use to win over the network, and then once they win it over, then they start making more regular episodes, and so it's disconnected, but and as such, it's not the best jumping off point because it doesn't feel like the rest of the series.
Yeah, not at all.
But
I mean, season 1 as a whole, which this is a good thing to say with most shows, is season 1, again, we're not calling any of these bad.
No.
We're going to keep getting that straight. We said it before, but we're going to keep getting that straight through this episode. Is like, we're not calling any of these bad. But I would say season 1 is probably the weakest season out of all of them, too.
I could say that, yeah.
Like,
I could see that
But
happening.
it's because, again, that's a good thing, is because with most shows, I was thinking about this earlier, is you either have season 1 was the best season, and it's all downhill from there, like they stayed stagnant for a bit, or all downhill from there with some shows, or you have season 1 was one of the worst seasons, if not the worst. It's usually either season 1 or season 2, because season 1 is the pilot season, season 2 is the season where they're starting to, okay, we might have a series going, we're going to start doing a lot of setting up stuff, so just bear with us, you know?
Yeah.
That's most shows. And then from there, season 3 is where you can start judging the show fully, which you actively say the season 3 premiere
I would say at the end of the day, my personal bias, season 3, episode 1, is my favorite episode. I just love it so much. I saw this episode when it was new, when they were airing it, and back to back on April Fool's Day. So some guy that I used to work with he messages me and he was like, "Hey, Rick and Morty is airing right now, season 3," and I was like, "No, it's not," because nobody knew when it was coming back. Nobody knew. They gave us a vague date at the end of the last episode where they were like, "It'll be like a year and a half or longer," and then we heard nothing.
Nothing.
There was even an account. I don't use Tumblr anymore because I'm better than that. I have not in years, but there was a Tumblr account that I followed way back when that was an active count of how long Rick has been in jail because of the end of that season 2. And so there was like, people were like, we don't know when this is coming back. This could be so long. And then for somebody to message me on April Fool's Day and go, Rick and Morty's back, I was like, no, it's not. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's trying to get me, and I'm not going to do it. And no, they were airing it. They were airing it back to back on Adult Swim and on AdultSwim.com. And I I stopped work. I was working at Chick-fil-A, and I stopped and sat down against the dumpster outside and watched 22 minutes of an episode of Rick and Morty because I was like, my gosh, it's back.
Dude, it was amazing. Yeah, I like same friend that I had seen the original thing. We both kick it with him, with Gabe and everything. But I was at Gabe's house and in the garage, just chilling, and I went out to like get a drink of water or something. I don't remember why I was going out, but his little brother Christian had like just turned on the TV, and it was on Cartoon Network because we would watch Adult Swim at night anyways, whether it was Aqua Teen Hunger Force or like whatever. And so he turned it on, and it was like 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, somewhere around there. It was late-ish, kind of. Yeah. It was evening. But turned it on, and it was Rick and Morty. And at first I was like, okay, cool, Rick and Morty. And then I was looking closer, and like Nathan Fillion's Alien was there. And it was Nathan Fillion's voice that got me, because I was like, I haven't seen an episode with Nathan Fillion and Rick and Morty. And so I was like, hey, go to the TV guide. And Fred's little brother pulls out, and TV guide says season 3 episode 1, and I like registered for a second, like, no way. And then I saw it was, like you said, back to back to back to back to back.
They're just airing it
I just ran into the garage. There's like 5 or 6 different people there. I'm like, guys, Rick and Morty season 3 right now. And same reaction. They're like, Brandon, that's probably the lamest April Fool's joke that you could ever make. And I'm like, I'm not joking. Didn't wait for a response. Run back. Wait 80, 90 seconds, and then just hear all of the footsteps. The garage door slams open, all the footsteps, and everyone's flipping out, like none of us knew, because they do such a good job at that. Is they're like, hey guys, again, it goes back to, this is our show, let us run our show, and we'll get it down to the day. We told you when it'd come back. It came back in exact 1.5 years.
Yeah, the math on the time in between was exactly 1.5 years, and I thought that was pretty cool too. And that's the other thing about this show that I really, really like, is that you don't get a lot of leaks with it in advance. MCU stuff, I feel like we get a lot of leaks because there's just people who are looking for it. But this stuff, they keep it under wraps pretty well, and I think that's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of that, because I'm too invested in this show to want to have anything ruined for me in advance, and I like that I've never had that happen.
I feel you.
And so the characters too. You don't often see animated shows that have character growth.
True.
And this is a show that does that, because animated shows were practically built with things like The Simpsons on the idea of everything's the same at the end of the episode as it was at the beginning.
Yep.
There's no growth, and that's okay. You're not here to see a story arc.
It's like the Goldbergs.
Oh,
I've heard that episode.
Oh, boy.
Go watch that one, guys.
But there's no growth. Homer Simpson doesn't change throughout the series. He just is the same character, and that's okay, because you're watching a cartoon. But then you have things like Rick and Morty, and you see this a little bit in earlier shows too. Futurama does it a little bit too, where you have character arcs and stuff, but Rick and Morty has some well-executed, subtle character growth.
Yeah.
You see it in Morty becoming smarter and becoming a little bit more, dominant, standing up for himself and stuff like that.
True. Well, even down to the subtle marks of, like, if you watch from season 1 through season 5, Rick's voice obviously gets a little better. It's kind of smooth at times and stuff, but like you notice, like his alcoholism kind of dies down a little bit at times, or they start paying attention when he has the green drool and other stuff. Some episodes he doesn't. Morty, though, all the way down to Morty's voice, it gets lower through the series, like it starts off way up here, and then it's still kind of deep, or high, but it's right here now, He
does way less of the whole voice cracking high pitch thing, and it's a subtle.
Yeah, I can't do a Morty because my throat hurts. That was terrible.
It's a subtle nod to clearly time in universe passing. They've never gotten specific with us about what that is. But it's clearly eventually going to happen at some point or another, and I think that's pretty cool. Or even if time doesn't pass, in the sense of maybe he doesn't actually get older at all by the end of the series, who's to say? But he still is becoming more mature, growing into a different kind of person due to the adventures we've seen him go on. And that's interesting, and I'm a big fan of that.
Well, it's really interesting, too, because a lot of us had the theory that Morty was going to be turning into some version of evil Morty eventually. We've seen him get more brutal, we've seen him get more cold, again, like you said, with the season 5 premiere. At first he starts screwing up their society because he doesn't know what's going on, but as soon as he knows what's going on, he's like, all right, screw this, I'm going in, and he just devastates them completely. And it's like, we've seen moments until then, but that was definitely one of the times where it's like, oh, this is full
where he was fully
status.
Just mad, and he just wanted revenge, and he took it.
Exactly. So like we've seen him take those turns, and like they've said, it is like he gonna be evil Morty, and then evil Morty even addresses, like, if you've ever been fed up with Rick before, if you've ever been tired of him, then you've been evil Morty too. That's kind of them, again, acknowledging the fans, but it's also them saying, hey, there's your little acknowledgement. He's not going to be like evil Morty. Here's the deciding factor, you know? Is he going to go with evil Morty? Is he going to side with Rick? And we know.
Yeah. And so and you see even these minor level arcs, like how for the first 2 seasons we see Beth and Jerry's relationship get rockier and rockier. There's some little things, like how they kind of fix up their relationship in the first season, but then we leave that dimension. So it's not actually fixed up anymore. But, you know, and then we catch up with them later on. They try to do some you know, space level marriage counseling and stuff like that. But then finally it all comes to a head in season 3 where they separate for like the whole season. The whole season is them being split up from the pilot from the premiere to the finale of that season. And then now that they're back together, they aren't really fighting anymore. They actually managed to kind of put aside their differences and solve them, and they don't fight the same way.
And, like, Jerry's still the punching bag for sure. Like, there's small shade, but, like, he also still gets respect at times.
Yeah.
Like, a lot more than he used to at the beginning of the series. And
definitely. And he stands up for himself way more, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's just him being sarcastic, he still just jumps in and is like, he doesn't want to take stuff from people.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, again, they could have gone back to formula and been like, oh, well, it's going to be a crappy marriage again. Like, was it good for them to get back together? But it's like, they even said at the end of season 3, like, oh, it's going to be like the season 1 formula, but more refined and more streamlined. Like,
yeah,
they meant because, again, they have a level of meta-ness where they tell us just enough, you know?
Yeah.
But it's because, you want character growth. If they went back to just them fighting all the time, people would be like, okay, so
what, they just spent that whole season divorced and now they're back together? Like, what was the point of that then?
And now, instead, season 3's arc for Beth and Jerry, I would say, is probably the best one of the series.
Yeah.
I love seeing the entire series of them divorced because, again, you get the Rick and Jerry episode. You get a Rick and Beth episode, the ABCs of Beth.
That one's also underrated.
You get to see her backstory. Yeah, that one is super underrated.
Also another really dark concept. Another one of the really dark ones that's hard to remember as being so dark because it's like, you know, it's very light. It's this world where nobody can die and stuff, but then she trapped her childhood friend there, and he's been living off of animals the whole time that he keeps, we'll say, creating new ones and then eating them, and it's horrifying and terrible, and then she finally is just like, this guy's crazy, and she kills him, and it's like...
That poses a question, too. In season 5, they have the episode where it ends, the sperm episode, you know? The monster sperm.
Yep.
And there's no other way to put that, sorry. And then, it's uncomforting. That's definitely one of the ones that we said was weird. But the incest baby at the end of it, which winds up coming back in a later episode too, but the incest baby was such a controversial thing. I feel like it's because they just swept ABC's of Beth under the rug. Like, which is worse here? Like, getting with animals and procreating, or like... Ooh. I'm not even gonna go there, you know? Leave it there. Like, I can't even say it, so I guess that's my answer. The one you can't say is the answer on which one's worse. Yeah, so there we go.
If you're debating the worstest of two things and you won't even say one of them, then that's the worst thing.
Anyways, back to this though, is it shows again both of those are real concepts in the show, and it gets wild.
It gets so crazy.
Again, as crazy as it gets, it also introduces some of the most complex scenarios that you ever see, you know?
Yeah. They touch on concepts, family dynamics, and interpersonal relationships in ways that other companies and other storytelling media have almost never been able to broach quite the same way. With so many deep and personal things, from lighter things like the end of the Captain Planet parody from season 5 with, you know, Rick and Morty's Planetina,
Morty gets his heart broken.
Where Morty gets his heart broken, and it's the first time we ever see Beth be a mom.
Yeah.
Where she's just there to comfort him. She's not there to be snide and make a crappy comment or anything. She's just there to help him through this bad breakup. And that's pretty cool. And there's the one where Morty has the reset button.
Oh, dude, that's
he's got
the
dark, long side, which is, of course, it's the Vat of Acid episode.
It even got its own episode.
It was an Emmy winner episode, I believe, and it was really good. And part of that was there's like a 5-minute long moment in the middle where it's practically a silent movie. It's just visual storytelling with music playing of Morty going through like this great romance with somebody. Yeah. And they go through like a plane crash, and they manage to make it back to real life, and then it gets reset, and he loses it, and he doesn't get it back. Yeah. And and you're like, what the? Oh no!
And did you know what's crazier on top of that is from behind the scenes stuff? The episode that they were writing for the Bad of Acid episode was only 17 minutes in runtime. And again, we know with ads it's a 30-minute episode, but usually it's 22 to 23 minutes.
Yeah.
So Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon literally went to their animation team and said, hey, we're going to have to scrap this episode. We need an idea for something. And one of the animators was like, hey, I got it covered. And they're the ones that single-handedly did that.
Really?
That Morty and female storyline, you know? So, like, the fact that won them an Emmy was, like, again, it speaks to the skill of not even just Dan and Justin, as we keep saying their name, because, again, yeah, they're the mastheads, but, like, this whole animation team,
the whole
and writing
operation.
team, everybody. Like, the writing team now works for Marvel on multiple senses. They work for Loki. They're writing Doctor Strange too, like, all this stuff, because they were like, hey, Rick and Morty knows their multiple universe stuff, you know? Like, they really do. As a lot of people are crediting Avengers and everything else with giving multiverse, like, the main thing, or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you see, like, multiverse stuff, and they're like, oh, it's mainstream now. But, like, Rick and Morty's been going since 2013, you said?
Yep.
Like, it's definitely probably closer to the thing you can attribute to starting to at least make the conversation of parallel dimensions and universes a thing again.
Absolutely. And that's fantastic too, because that was broached almost right away because the season finale from season 1 is the first episode of the Citadel of Ricks.
Yes.
And that is where we first see it's an introduction to Evil Morty, it's an introduction to the Council of Ricks, and all these kinds of things where we had bumped up against the parallel universe thing one other time, where when they made the love potion that turned everybody except for Morty's core family into Cronenbergs, and they escaped from it by merely jumping to a parallel dimension where that Rick was able to fix the problem, and that was how they did it. And that was the first time where we were like, okay, so multiverses are a thing in this. What does that look like? And then instead of slowly introducing us to it, they do that, and then they just go balls to the wall and just say, there's a citadel where every conceivable Rick meets up, and you see some crazy things, and where they say most universes have a Rick and most Ricks have a Morty, and a bunch of the Ricks teamed up and they made this citadel. And it's crazy. It's a unique concept. Futurama did a little bit of multiverse stuff, but never to this level.
Exactly.
Never, not even close.
And, like, it's crazy because, again, they're feeding off of, they came out and said one of their main influences was the Council of Reeds from Marvel Comics, the Council of Mr. Fantastics and the parallel universes and stuff. So, like, it definitely, again, I know a bunch of the Easter eggs, guys. I'm always going to reference backstage stuff for anything we talk about. Like, I'm that guy. But yeah, so we get to see that, and again, the focus to detail, they've had a whole episode dedicated to the Citadel where it's just Rick's and Morty's and Sam Elliott, but just Rick's and Morty's mainly, and it's one of the best episodes in the entire series, you know? Like, it's insane how in-depth they go with that concept. And then again, right after they introduce the Citadel and even Evil Morty and everything else like that, then the next episode is like, okay, so you guys paused time to do all of this stuff. You can't mess with time. Yeah,
like, and that is the season 2 premiere that has Key and Peele in it as the time police, time cops, and that where they keep on splitting the screen because of the different outcomes of being indecisive where time is splintered. Yeah, and it's, again, just insanely unique, and it's very cool because these things are also so seamlessly done, where they hit these heavy, high-concept sci-fi things, but they do them properly. Yeah. They don't half do it. They don't like make it like, you know, like they're flawless. There's no loopholes. There's no plot holes. They're just well executed, high concept things that we've never seen before.
Yeah, and I gotta correct a little bit. Is I guess they like went through the Citadel stuff, and then they had the party at the house the next episode where we get. And the only reason I point that out is because we get introduced to Bird Person, we get introduced to Squanchy, we get introduced to again another universe where they have an alien where they go and get Calaxians crystals that turn out to be drugs.
They're just drugs.
Turn out to be the ultimate party high for Rick, you know? And we see, like, multiple substances used in the show later on of, like, intergalactic stuff, but that was the first case where it was like, oh, wow, like, I didn't even think that was a concept, too, where, again, it's a sci-fi concept, but flipped on its head. Like, okay, I guess if this planet has fun party drugs, I guess every planet would, you know? So everyone laughed about that, but again, it took such a crazy episode that introduced Abradolf Linkler, for heck's sake.
Abradolf Linkler.
And you turn it on its side right after, and the end of the episode is, oh, we froze time because we're going to avoid the consequences. So you're like, oh, that's funny. And then again, the season 2 premiere picks up, and it's like, hey, there's consequences here. Most shows would just be like, nope, it's over, it didn't happen, or have a small line or two and just go back to normal. Rick and Morty was like, hey, we're gonna explain this in detail. If anything, we're gonna establish more lore for our series with this, you know?
Yeah, because they pause time at the end of the previous season so they can clean up after the party before Morty's parents get mad at them for how terrible the house looks. And then, but they leave time frozen for like 6 months.
6 months.
Because at first they're like, what if we just clean up the party and then just see how we feel? And they go through like a whole like half a year of their own time. And then when things get unfrozen, then now they have to spend an episode dealing with those repercussions.
Yeah, they can't touch anything.
They didn't get grounded or whatever, but instead they almost, broke time and like almost killed themselves because of it. And it's really good. Like, it's about like what kind of repercussions are worse.
And that episode has another underrated Beth and Jerry storyline that I just thought of. Is that's the one where they hit a deer because Rick gives them like $1,000 and Jerry spends like $999 of it on Cold Stone tipping them because they sang for him.
Because they sing for him.
And then they hit a deer, and then Beth does her whole ego thing, which is the first time you see Beth act a little bit like Rick too, where she's like, no, I'm the best. You know, like,
I'm
don't
taking
question
care of
me.
this.
I got this situation.
Like, stay out of my way.
And so Jerry shows he's still a good, caring husband, though, because it's convinced at the end, like, okay, we got to give this up. And then it's the stupidest yet best reveal where it's not the police taking away the deer body, it's Cold Stone Creamery, and they're helping Jerry out so his wife can perform deer surgery. And that's a bonding experience for a husband and wife that later got divorced.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, they're 2 kids, and the guy that lives with them that is related to them in different ways, grandpa and son, or father and father-in-law, but they're going through their own time dimension stuff at the same time. These people are saving a deer.
Because as Rick himself even says, they're in their broken time, and then Morty's like, are my parents okay? And then Rick says, Morty, pull your head out of your family's ass. We have a way bigger problem here. He's like, they're probably just in some grounded story about their crappy marriage. Like, well, we're gonna deal with our stuff, and that's exactly what was going on. And it was so good.
Oh, dude.
Because the meta commentary, it's not over the top. It's not, and I know this is what he does, so it's good, but it's not, they aren't trying to be Deadpool. They aren't trying to just to take every episode and look into the camera and make jokes to you. But they do it just often enough where they'll like, occasionally Rick will just like look into the camera and be like, haha, I'm going for a commercial break. We'll be right back. And it's just like things like that. Like, what? You're in a TV show?
Yeah.
What is that? Or like at the end of,
Nintendo,
again,
give me free stuff.
or when again the mind parasites one, when the house gets full of people and they do like some big sweeping shot where you can see like all of these mind parasites who've become characters and stuff. Rick's like, oh no, this is terrible. Then he's like, oh look, it's like a Where's Waldo page. Haha, can you find me in the we'll be right back, guys. And then they cut to a commercial and it's like, what is this? So it's so good because it's an extra added layer. You don't get that on The Simpsons. You don't get that on Futurama.
True. You know? And they started doing it in Family Guy, but they do it really political in Family Guy.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Big oof, but it's okay. I give Seth MacFarlane a pass because he doesn't want to do this anymore. Fox is forcing him. Anyways, back to the good show, Rick and Morty right now. The one that's not dead for 5 years, 10 years, whatever.
Yeah.
I say that as a Family Guy fan.
The one where they didn't kill off the dog and then ruin their show by doing it. But anyway, okay, all right. Anyway.
The Purging episode, dude, that's another one that I gotta say is towards my top, like that's such a unique episode where it's the whole planet is the purge stuff, and then they have they think they have candy bars with purginol in them, which makes them purge, but then it doesn't actually have purginol, so they did all that dark stuff for real.
Yeah. And it's a great, it's because it's their take on it. Which is why some of those earlier parodies of stuff, their version of Inception, their version of the Purge stuff, are so good because it's just them saying, here's what it's basically like Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon being like, here's what we want to see out of a Purge movie. So they do their little version of it.
Yup.
And it's so good. They aren't trying to do because Family Guy did the Star Wars ones where they basically just inject their characters into it and just like make meta commentary making fun of Star Wars the whole time. I love those. But the Rick and Morty parodies aren't that. They're
their own thing.
They're more like style parodies that just inject the concept in, hey, this planet does purges. Like that movie The Purge.
Yeah.
And now we're going to have our own little thing here. And it's well done because it's not just them outright parodying it. It's like a style parody.
That is
more than an outright parody. And I think that's good because they don't lean on the crutch of just taking other people's ideas all the time, and they do it just often enough to kind of keep up with current ideas.
Just to bounce off of it, to keep it relevant enough to where it's not going to die out in time. Like, I could go right now, the Purge movies keep coming out, and the Purge movies are also amazing, but still, is even if it was 5-10 years from now, I could still go watch that episode and still find enjoying it. Because, yeah, it's taking the concept of The Purge, a movie by then that'll be a little dated or whatever, hopefully. Just as far as, like, current times relating, you know. Love the movies, but still. But it doesn't, like you're saying, it bounces off the concept, but it's not a direct parody where you'd be like, I can't watch this episode because it's not even relevant. Like, it's still its own thing where it's like, no, this is a good episode.
Because that's exactly where South Park falls. And that's a good thing and a bad thing, is that so much of what they do is satire of current culture, that if you don't really know what was going on, like 20 years ago, you probably won't enjoy an older South Park episode, because you're not going to know, oh, they're making deep cut jokes about the Bush administration.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? But like current day, it's great because they're making fun of current day stuff. They're making fun of COVID. They're making fun of Trump. They're making fun of whatever. And that's cool.
See.
So it's funny while it's going on, but it doesn't age well because it's meant to be taken at the time it comes out.
And speaking of that, that's something else Rick and Morty does, is they have a president in their universe, voiced by Keith David, an acting legend, you know, a man with a memorable voice and both on and off screen legend. You have him appear in multiple episodes, and they haven't, like, yeah, he was the Obama parody or whatever, but once Trump was in office, they still kept him around, and they had, like, his cabinet changed to around, like, what Trump's cabinet looked like and stuff, for, like, little Easter eggs through the times that he appears, because the president's in multiple episodes, too.
Yeah.
But they keep it still, again, where they have the figurehead, and they make a lot of political jokes, but they don't beat you over the head with it either, you know? Like, when the president is like, oh, yeah, it's by Abraham's slave coliseum. He didn't free them all. Like, that's so dark. Or, like, the Truman Cocaine Lounge?
The Truman Cocaine, yeah.
Like, there's another one. Like, there's a couple, you know? And it's stuff like that where it's just, like, conspiracy theories and other stuff that could just relate to it.
Which is another great one out of the current day one, is the Thanksgiving episode.
Oh, wonderful.
From season 5, because it is the exact opposite of every Thanksgiving episode you've ever seen.
That episode is probably, I'm even laughing right now saying it, that episode has probably given me the biggest laugh at a moment in Rick and Morty, because Rick is all about, I have superior intellect, you know, and then especially him and the president through previous times, it's hinted like, oh, the president has all this technology, and the president even has an awareness for all this stuff, like he might be one of Rick's matches, and he keeps reappearing, you know, little by little he's getting a little more rivalry with Rick. And then you get to the turkey episode, and Rick thinks he has him all figured out turning into a turkey, and the president turns to a turkey, and Rick's reaction is just like, oh my god, Morty, act like a turkey. And Morty's like, what? He's like, act like a freaking turkey. And like, he's all, the president has the upper hand. Like,
he's like, I was not ready for this. I was not.
Yeah, seeing him overreact.
Because you almost never see Rick not ready for something. He's like unprepared like twice in the whole episode. He always has the upper hand. He's always the smartest guy in every room, and
which is going to change.
And it's fantastic because of that. It gives him such this insane upper hand in every interaction that to see him lose it occasionally is great. Which is why going forward it's going to be an interesting thing, because we don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm
going
really
forward
interested.
After the end of season 5.
Yeah, because they answered all of our theories of like the past, again, 2013, we're in 2021, the past 8 years of theories, because they set up Evil Morty in season 1.
Yeah.
So, like, we've had a lot of all this time and a lot of theories about Rick's backstory and all this other stuff. All of that has been answered now, and it's been left on the cliffhanger of Evil Morty's the only one with portal tech. He has a new type of portal that we're assuming means he can travel all over the multiverse, not just within the central finite curve. And we don't know what that means, you know? Is he gonna get killed right away, like you said? Is he gonna get killed off in the first couple of minutes of season 6, and it's like, oh, so now we know there's a big bad, like, we need to worry. This dude's dominated 8 years of this. He's dominated the entire thing, and now he just got murked in a second, you know?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be where I think okay, we had Rick's backstory in the past 2 of 3 final episodes. I think we need Evil Morty's backstory to give that a full final conclusion. And then, I still agree with you, have the after credits scene or something be him dying off.
Yeah.
To signal, hey, we're doing something moving forward where even Rick's not going to know how to handle this. I like that a lot.
Definitely.
But I really like the existential episodes too.
Oh, yeah.
The Rick in the Toilet episode is probably one of the best episodes, and it's highly underrated because a lot of people think of it with the Gluty episode. Taika Waititi's good and everything, and it's a fun little side story with Morty and Jerry.
Yeah, because Rick's thing with the toilet on the other planet kind of becomes the B plot, when it's debatably the more interesting concept, actually.
Yeah, I think it's way better, and they hit a lot of existential stuff to where, now we know that Rick's wife is dead and everything, which I need to go back and rewatch that episode for Tony's speech now that we know all of this stuff, because I haven't watched it since the finale. I've just watched the finale like 6 freaking times. It's so good. But just that, I remember watching it at the time. Like, it hits such a deep level of seriousness and sadness that we rarely see. We see it with the Unity episode, we see it with this episode, and we see it a couple of times, like the Clone Beth episode is another one. But like, again, just to add another layer to this, Rick and Morty just keeps hitting those tones that it's all over the place. It's not any one animated show, you know? Like,
yeah, because surface level at first, if you know nothing about it, you might think it's a dumb Adult Swim show. Who cares? You might think, oh, they're doing some sci-fi crap and they're just emulating previous things that all came before them. That's an easy mistake to make.
Some of the fans don't help.
They don't. No, yeah, the bad fan base does not help at all. But then you get into it and you're like, no, this is a well-crafted science fiction program that also has some of the most intricate interpersonal relationships that we've ever seen fleshed out, especially in the medium of animation.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that. You know, you don't have that all over the place. It's hard to match that in live action stuff sometimes. And these interactions, because it's the subtleties, you know, it's like the show don't tell kind of thing.
Exactly.
They don't just tell you we have a bad relationship. They show it to you by Beth and Jerry having little fights all over the place. It eventually leads to you thinking in the back of your mind, I think they kind of have a bad relationship. Yeah. And then they flesh it out once they give you enough small pieces to put that together yourself. They know that their audience is smart, and they take advantage of that, and it's a good thing.
True.
You know, and so that's why this show, there's just so much here to talk about. You know, we could talk episode by episode about what makes this show so good, and it would be easy to do that and make this podcast be a 4-hour-long episode.
Yeah, but we gotta cut it
at
a certain time.
Eventually,
you
we got to walk away because.
What are we at right now?
It's about 40 minutes. So,
nice.
So I think, you know, it's just a good show that is staying good. So far, so good. The first 5 seasons have been solid. We'll see what happens. We've seen some shows that don't stick the landing when they get to the finale.
True. We know they have a big block of episodes, though, so I'm hoping they have the overarching story written instead of trying to play it season by season like a lot of things. You know?
Or even like Star Wars did. Oh even all the way up to big scale things.
But I mean, like this show, if people ask you, like, what would you compare Rick and Morty to? I wouldn't compare it to Family Guy or American Dad or The Simpsons. I would compare it to the likes of maybe, like, you know, like you said, Futurama for one.
I think Futurama's comparable.
I would definitely say BoJack Horseman.
Yeah.
Because both main protagonists, Rick and BoJack, you relate to a lot of their actions to an extent, and you laugh at a lot of their stuff, but at the end of the day, you're not supposed to like them. Or at least you're not supposed to identify with them. That's the thing. You're not supposed to, like, there's certain stuff Rick says and everything that's existential, and same with BoJack, which we'll go into that in a future episode, but they say certain stuff, but their actions, you're not supposed to be able to excuse their actions. They're supposed to be going forward, you know? I would say Archer is another one. Archer, you had the 3 seasons that could have been 1 season of a coma thing instead of 3, but now that it's back for 2 current seasons, they're still going, you know, and they're going strong on it, and they're making Archer be responsible for his stuff. Those are the shows I would compare it to. Shows that are very fleshed out characters, very well exhibited bonds.
Yeah.
So I mean,
where in a crazy sci-fi show, the sci-fi stuff almost sometimes takes a back seat.
Yeah.
To the relationships, and I think that really says something, because it's really easy to just make your show just about the high concept. You know, to kind of Flanderize your own show, the way that Family Guy has just kind of become like the cutaway show instead of being about the characters. It's about how many jokes can we shove into a half-hour thing.
True.
You know, and again, I'm not trying to slam Family Guy because I know that Seth MacFarlane wanted the show done years ago, so I'm not blaming anything. Yeah. But it has become the go-to example of shows that don't have plot anymore. And Rick and Morty has so much plot that the show itself is an ice cream sundae, and the sci-fi is the cherry on top. You could have a great show here without the sci-fi stuff.
Yes.
Because of the way that the characters are written and the growth that's exhibited in these characters.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Is you have the jokes. You need a high IQ to understand Rick and Morty and all the other stuff. Like, it's laughable and everything, but in reality, though, is it balances the sci-fi perfectly to where if you're a sci-fi nerd, you're gonna love it. But if you're not a sci-fi person, you still really would vibe with it. And again, I'm never the type of person that's like, every person should love this and you're stupid if you don't. Like, you have your own opinion, you know, and all I can say is give it a try. Give it a try with either season 1, episode 2, Lawnmower Dog, the real start of the series. Season 2, episode 4, the
Mind Parasites one.
Parasites one. From there, you kind of gotta do one of those two, otherwise you're gonna start getting into heavy spoilers real quick and not understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But give them a shot. You know,
Or
watch
I would
a couple
even
episodes
say
back to back.
season 1, episode 3, Meeseeks and Meeseeks, also solid.
Is that episode 3
or it
episode
might be
5?
episode 4 or 5.
That's episode 5 because
But-
Anatomy Park season 1, episode 3. That's John Oliver.
That's
John
true.
Oliver.
John Oliver being their first guest star
Yeah.
was also very cool. But Meeseeks is another great one. Another one with some high concept, interesting sci-fi stuff
Turned on its head
turned on its head
and brought back multiple times.
in creative ways where they
Kirkland
don't
Meeseeks.
where they never center another episode around it.
What do you want?
What do you?
I would love an episode. Final note. I would love an episode purely inside of the Meeseeks box where like something malfunctions or anything. Now that they established there's a Kirkland Meeseeks brand on top of the regular one or whatever, have Rick and Morty go inside of a Meeseeks box and have a bunch like a green, a purple, an orange, all these different types of Meeseeks with different abilities and,
And-
stuff,
and they have
see
to
how
fix
their
it or
world
something.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to fix it, but you also see how they're summoned to the real universes and everything else, like and
Yeah.
have it go completely haywire. That'd be cool. But again, we could talk about this all night, man.
We could talk about small stuff and big stuff.
We
all
definitely
over the
got a
place.
lot of other stuff to do, though. We're
Yeah.
both very busy people, so,
So
we should
we're
probably
gonna
cut it.
We'll probably cap it off here. But you know, this is just it's my favorite currently airing show. I would probably go that far, especially
Dang.
with
in general, live action and animated.
what else am I watching? I mean, I was watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but now that's over, so it's not currently airing anymore.
Ended perfectly,
So I
too.
would say Rick and Morty would probably be my favorite currently airing show, honestly speaking. And I think it's just it's so good, but especially in the animated category, it's hard to beat it, and it is up there as one of the animated greats.
Yes.
I would say absolutely.
I mean, you don't get your show renewed for 70 episodes at once unless the network has faith in you and you know you have the fan base. Again, all they can do now is write one overarching story, hit it home.
Exactly. So yeah, that'll do it here. Brandon, you got anything to plug?
Again, same as usual. Got my art on my Instagram. Also posting food, but that's not for sale unless you're my friend, unfortunately. At Canva Butter, CanvaButter, and yeah, that's all the Canva Buddy has to say, bro.
That's it for the Canva Buddy and for your host. I've been Will, of course. That was Brandon, and this will start the outro. A lot of side characters. I love Squanchy personally,
lot of side
and of
characters.
course,
We didn't talk about Bird Person and Phoenix Person's arc. Oh my God, we're gonna have to talk about that in a future thing.
we'll have to
Holy
talk about it
crap.
eventually because I'm sure he's going to come back
Oh,
at some
but yeah,
point.
we need Squanchy to come back.
I want to see more
Squanchy
Squanchy,
here.
and I like they keep bringing back Mr. Poopy Butthole also. Who's also so
every
good.
season
at least
finale.
once a season.
Oh,
and it's
his
so
story
good.
arc right now too is dark.
That makes me sad, but I guess that was the outro.